Hey, what's up everybody? So we've got another Curse of the Moon 2 speedrun to talk about today. I performed this speedrun offline about a week back. And you're gonna notice pretty early on, it's not exactly an optimal speedrun. There are a lot of smaller mistakes in every stage, but there's a good reason for that. We are playing on Legend mode here. Curse of the Moon 2 is one of the toughest 2D action games ever made, and Legend mode is why it has that reputation. This is just a tremendous increase in difficulty across the board, and I want to quickly go over all the ways this mode makes your life harder. So number one, everything deals an extra point of damage. Whether you're talking about contact damage or projectiles, whether you're talking about bosses or regular enemies, or even environmental hazards, everything deals +1. So it's much easier to die. If one of your characters dies, unlike in other difficulty modes, that automatically sends you back to the last checkpoint. You cannot continue with the rest of your crew. It doesn't work like that in Legend. So it's easier to die, it's harder to make progress, and every room has got new stuff in it. There are way more enemies, there are way more infinitely spawning enemies, and it's designed to be as cruel and punishing as possible. Oh, one final thing. You know those desperation attacks at the end of every boss fight? In Legend mode exclusively, those are actually lethal. They can actually kill you now. This mode is tough to complete, let alone speedrun. Oh, that was a nice standard quick kill fight. No real complaints, and a pretty good stage 1. Here we've got stage 2, which is actually pretty interesting on Legend mode. It's not a huge increase compared to Veteran, but a lot of these new enemies just make rooms busier and a little more complicated. A lot of the core strats are the same as in other speedrun categories, but you've got a little bit less room to work with. Something else I should go ahead and mention now. Not only are there a lot more infinitely spawning enemies in Legend mode, oftentimes their placement is random, which I actually love. It's one of the reasons this is such a cool category to speedrun. You have to react to different patterns in many different rooms in the run, and sometimes if you get super unlucky, there's nothing you can do. A bad pattern will just guarantee a time loss. But most of the time you can react and come up with slightly different strats to account for different sorts of patterns, which is cool. This boss you can choose to handle a couple of different ways. Demon Essence isn't bad here, but Ball and Chain's a little bit quicker. I've also picked up the electric weapon for Dominique, which is not going to be relevant until stage 5. We are going for the Lava Mandra quick kill. I've kind of brought that over from Veteran. It's a risky proposition to go for that on Legend, but it does save time, so I figure it's worth a shot. Okay, stage 3 is another fun one. This is quite similar to the stage on Veteran mode, except there are way more ghosts. Way more infinitely spawning ghosts. On that one screen there were like 4 extra ghost spawns. Oh, that's fair. That ghost blends into the waterfall, super easy to miss. In this room there is yet another ghost that chases you from behind. And this one, if you get really bad RNG, can cost you multiple seconds. That's one of the tougher patterns right there you have to jump over, or it loses you time. More snakes in this room, so the strat's a little bit different. That was very good. This room right here, this is one of the biggest run killers of the run. Look how many bats are in here. Oh my god, what were they thinking? Even with all the tools in ultimate mode that you have access to, it's just so easy to get knocked into a pit. There was one small mistake there. I had to go for a second try on that heart pickup. You really want that on ultimate for obvious reasons. The extra health is very useful. I guess I was just too excited about actually surviving the bat room that I missed my jump. But yeah, besides that, this has been a pretty much perfect stage 3. And we get the big gun for Robert. That'll be useful for the quick kill later, or at least the quick kill attempt versus Lava Mandra. I do love all of these boss strats, where you combine Demon Essence and Holy Water that you pick up a little bit before the boss. We see that a couple of times. I think it's a cool way to handle combat. And then here you want to take a little bit of damage, but only after Hachi lands, or it won't count, you'll still get the 1-up. Bow wow. Stage 4 has got the fewest changes on Legend compared to the others, but there are still some things you have to be aware of. This early part is mostly the same. We're going to take the upper route here, using Zangetsu's Charge Blade. But then in this room, there are a couple of plants and a statue you gotta be careful for. I have lost runs to that flying eyeball. Really easy to get knocked into a pit. And for this wave here, I actually switched to Hachi. If you want to tank damage in this game, Hachi is almost always your best option. Because number one, Hachi's got a lot of health to work with. And number two, Hachi takes the least knockback. Now, in the old route for this stage, we would use Demon Essence here, but as you can see, if you're a little bit precise, you can clear the way with just a couple of Charge Blades. Saves about 1 second in that Squid Room. So the first half of the run was great, but here's where things really get started. The second half of Curse of the Moon 2 Legend Mode is unbelievably punishing. Every stage, the remainder of the game, is a gauntlet. And this stage in particular has gotten some major enhancements. This stage is truly hell. More turrets, more ghosts, more boers. Gotta love those random boers flying in. Like, just take a look at this room. In this room right here, the upside down volcano room, there are way more fishes to deal with. So you activate this Demon Essence at a slightly different time compared to Veteran, so you can clear that out without taking a hit. You really can't afford to lose much health. There are a couple of spots to refill, but you want to save as much health as you can for some of these tougher rooms at the end of the stage. Here we switch to Hachi, spread some of the damage around, and yeah, this room was tough enough on Veteran. Now it's got a lot of backs added to it, and anything here kills me in one hit. Take it a little bit safe with Dominique, which in retrospect was probably the right call. Good, I get intentionally boosted forward there. You can use those iframes to activate Demon Essence and get your MP filled up at the same time. So the whole reason we got the electric power-up for Dominique and the big gun power-up for Robert is to go for the quick kill here. If you get it, it saves about 10-12 seconds. If you don't, it probably loses time. So unfortunately, that was worst possible Lavamandra RNG. 7 shake at the bottom, 7 shake at the bottom, and then tails rather than heads. It does not get any worse than that. Best case scenario is you get 7 shake at the top, because that makes the quick kill easier to pull off. If you do get a bottom pattern, you want a 4 shake, which saves like 3 seconds or something. So that was rough. It was played well. Didn't die, which is nice. But we are going to be a little bit red here because of the bad RNG. Here's another Hell on Earth stage. I mean, just look at this first screen. Look, we intentionally damage boost. We pogo wall invincible to get through the door because the sheer amount of enemy spam is just too much. We gotta cheese where we can. Shoutouts to the Moai room. So far, so good. But there are a couple of problems in these final few rooms. Number one, you have to take damage there. There's no quicker way to handle that staircase, unfortunately. Which looks bad, but I promise you it's the best. That's gonna leave us with less HP for the remainder. And then in the very final room before the boss, there is perhaps the most ridiculous new enemy in the whole game. They just place a giant sphinx right in front of the boss door. Look at that! Inti, please! So yeah, you just tank the damage with Hachi, because there's just no elegant way to actually get through some of these rooms quickly. But here we go, on to Titan Kamun. There's definitely a lot of RNG to this boss, but with some of the newer strats we're using with the machine gun, it's not that bad. So for example, this is a terrible pattern, but with Robert, it'll still be reasonably quick. GG. Just to give you some context, about 70% of runs that made it to this stage died at this stage. This is the hardest stage in this game, and perhaps any speedrun I've ever picked up. These platforms are on random cycles. The Medusas are random. The patterns of the soldiers are 50-50s. Oh, Jesus! Oh my god. Surviving by a pixel. One of the toughest rooms in any video game. We're not even done. You'll notice there is a ghost that spawned right above Dominique. You gotta intentionally wait there, or you'll trade. So that lost a little time, but not too bad. Otherwise, a very good room. That's one of the tougher ones in stage 7. Okay, here we go. Legend mode frog room. Please observe all the bottomless pits here. Please observe all the frogs in here. But perfect. Very good. Here I just wait a little bit intentionally. Definitely the right call. A little bit too much going on at the bottom part of this room. But yeah, overall really nice. Very clean 7. There were some scary moments, but there are always scary moments in stage 7. This route, we came up with it for veteran mode, and it's actually even better on ultimate, because the more standard route where you go up rather than down has some forced time losses. Whereas here, in ultimate mode, it's way harder, but it's not any slower if you play perfectly. It's kind of cool. It's a good route, but it's even better on the highest difficulty. It's so easy, by the way, to die on Gremory. Because of the +1, you've got one less hit to work with, which can be a big deal. However, once again, very solid. And here we go, the home stretch. So there is a quick kill on Beelzebub that saves, once again, about 12 seconds. But you cannot count on getting that in Legend mode. For context, I've never gotten it on Veteran, let alone Legend, so... Instead, let's worry about this ridiculous enemy spam. Look, there's a ghost on top of the dragon. There's a ghost on top of the dragon. Why? Now this room coming up here, this climb, it's extra scary looking on Legend. You'll want to delay slightly, but otherwise it's exactly the same. It's important to just not play nervous, and it'll work out. Here we go. The final boss of Legend Mode. This is great pace. A couple of golds to wrap things up. We're at perfect MP. Let's go for that quick kill. That's it. I've genuinely never had a better Beelzebub on any difficulty. That's the best fight I've ever gotten in a speedrun, and it happened to be on my best pace legend attempt. I gotta tell you, my heart rate in this moment was like 150. You just gotta make sure you're far enough right on that platform. Then you do some manual mashing to save a little bit of time compared to holding down the button. And it's over. A 27:04. Huge improvement for Ultimate Legend mode. I gotta say, in hindsight, it would have been great to get the first 26. We can all blame Lava Mandra for that. If it was anything except for worst possible RNG, this would have been a 26. But I don't know when I'm gonna get another Legend Mode quick kill on bees. So I am definitely happy with this one for now. A great run. And hopefully a good showcase of how crazy this difficulty can get. Thanks very much for watching. After this, we'll be moving on to Episode 2, Episode EX, and then we're gonna give Final 100% a try. So lots more Bloodstained in the future.